everybody. Today we are going to break down a cover song. We're going to talk about how we wrote it, how we picked it, how we arranged it, all the stuff that went into it. This song today is by ABBA, the great band from way across the pond. It's called I've Been Waiting for You, I think, something like that. And in my version sounds a bit like this. You thrill me, you delight me. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. We're going to talk about the cello and that bass and how they're playing together and how they tie in with the strings and why you might want to drop a big fat trill up into something cool and what a trill is. We're going to talk about this vocal track. We'll talk about how I processed it. We'll talk about a little DMS action, see what I used, the 269 there. We are going to talk about all kinds of neato mosquito things about this song. And so, with that out of the way, if you would be so kind as to tag that subscribe button if you have not done so already. I am a working creative guy trying to add $10 a week to his income flow. YouTube is a tall hill to climb, my friends. So, do me a little favor and hit that thing, and now we're on to the show. To the shizzo. So this song is awesome, really. ABBA's a really great band. I don't need to tell you that. My wife brought this song to me, as she often does. She says, "Hey man, I dig this song. Would you, do the Andy thing to it? That'd be cool." And so the Andy thing can mean several things, and I apologize for the cold and the wonderful nasally voice that's going on. I've been sick for all of 2020 so far. It's a fun story. But you got to keep going. So here we are. And so she brings me this song, and Andyize it is the task in what might I do, to turn it into. So the first thing I did was I learned the song, listened to it. I didn't know it before, but listen to the song. Become very familiar with the song. And so if you're going to cover a song, this is my advice to you. Everything that's about to come in this video. And because covering songs is great fun. I've written hundreds, and I spent most of my life playing and writing my own music. And it really wasn't until a couple years ago that I started really embracing other people's songs and sitting in here and playing them by myself and really liking them. And of course, playing them live is almost more fun sometimes than playing your own songs because everybody knows the covers and they're just having a blast. But anyways, let's talk about this particular cover. So I first picked up a guitar after I got really familiar with the song and learned stuff. I picked up a guitar, started playing on the guitar and singing along, and I kind of realized this isn't going to work at all. Their original instrumentation is the standard kind of ABBA stuff, and it's very 70s-y, and it's not my sound at all. So I know going into it, I need to, make this my sound or it won't sound good. The song's beautiful, so should be no problem. And that is sound logic. So that's one of my first big bits of advice to you when it comes to a cover is do the cover your way. You have a voice. Everyone has a voice. And if you haven't found it yet, keep looking for it. It's there. You're probably much closer to it than you think you are. But everybody has a voice, and so there's certain things that you do well, and there's certain things that you don't do well. And so, like I said, I don't really sound like a 70s thing vibe like that, like their vibe. I don't do that very well. What I do well is other stuff. Guitar, of course, being one of them, and that just wasn't working for this song. This song's really intimate, but like not in a guitar-y kind of a way. It's more theatrical to me. So therefore, orchestra just sounds great and like a natural fit. And usually I can make orchestra fit anything kind of. The palette that you get with an orchestra is so wide and varied, and the instruments are so dynamic. And so as I really like an orchestra. And so that's what we end up with here. And so we have a piano, really, as the basis. I put the foundation down with a piano, which sounds like this. Sorry.
I would no more manage to hit the ceiling still, strange as it seems to me.
And so that's how the song starts to come together, is the piano and the voice, me playing the piano and singing some, and really then probably realistically me tracking some of the piano and singing to it, and seeing how it sounds, and it's coming out like this, and I'm thinking,
you brought it back to me, that old feeling.
and so already I'm really, really liking it, and so I'm starting to hear some things coming in, and the first thing that I hear is I want like a single bass, just good strong bass, and so that's what we get. Going right into this next section, the bass comes in, like just this nice anchor force.
I don't know what you do. You make me think that you possibly.
And so you can see that bass comes in there, and it's not just being a bass though, we've got an orchestra, we've got this theatrical kind of a vibe and set going on, so let's use it, right? And we're going to use it as best as we can, and get this window set up out of the way. We're going to use it as best as we can, and so that's immediately in this score, we're already writing little alternate melodies. And so as I was sitting down a little while ago and thinking about, what am I going to say in this video about this score and writing all these parts, that's one of the things that jumped to my mind first, is that in this song you have like all these different melodies that you play and get along together and do this and do that, all these little melodies and sub-melodies, so it can be really fun, totally find a song and take your orchestra plug-in, whatever it might be. And by the way, this one is not an expensive one. This is a Motu symphonic instrument. It's totally nice and low CPU usage. It's great for an older system like my 2011 iMac here, which is still running like a champ. No really reason to replace it yet, but I might soon. Another conversation. $250 for that plugin. It's like nothing. And so you take your favorite orchestra type plugin and cover something, and you'll find like all these instruments, just so much to do. So you got that bass coming in first, and then I started hearing like some some strings just kind of stabbing, kind of putting some rhythm kind of into the scene. And so that's the next thing really that came into play, was those strings. Marquette
could release me.
And now we're into the chorus. And so you can see the bass does have some lines that are like bass, it's still a bass. It's got to fill in that bass. But where you can, that's you wander off into some various places with the bass. That's what's fun about the bass. And I can give you an example. Like I said, when the bass first comes in, I think is up in here somewhere. Yep. So you can see I'm really, getting on a note and then doing something fun to get to the next note. Da 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 da. And so play around with it. Like, you don't have to go just from one note to the other. And something like a bass, that big contrabass with the sound of a string, and you can almost get some pluckiness on the bowing on some of those low notes. It makes for a really cool vibe and energy. And so play around with that contrabass patch. You'll love it. Super cool. So then those Marchetto strings come in. They're easy enough. They're just stabbing around. And pretty soon you've got, kind of enough of an orchestra mix, And so the only other things that I have in that orchestra mix are that we haven't talked about. A cello kind of runs the main line. And I said initially in the intro, this cello and bass playing around together is a lot of this score. That's going into the chorus.
You excite me. You're something I've been pleading for.
And so you can see that cello plays a big role. It does this whole thing where it's like, and so it'll do that. It'll go up in patterns, and it swoops up and then it swoops back down. And you can do this with these parts like this. It's so fun. And so that just it gives you, it's like another tool that you can use to play with the emotion that you're like building and unbuilding in your song. Like you build it up, you pull it down. We can wind this whole thing up and then we can let it go. And to me, that's a huge part of what music is the dynamics of a build up and a release. Just try humming the first part of something and like not humming the rest of it. It's quite hard to do. You probably know what I'm talking about. And so the cello is a nice way to accomplish this. It really cuts that instrument. It's going to cut through the mix good. Everybody kind of likes cellos too. Like it's a very good and recognizable and familiar and pleasable sound and tone, as opposed to like say a bassoon. Like not everybody is going to be like, oh, that bassoon is beautiful. I might, but like somebody else might not think so. Whereas a cello is like, man, it's like kind of everybody loves a cello. Anyways, moving along. Then we've got 2 string tracks, and let's see what they're doing.
You thrill.
I think so. We've got strings basically mimicking what the cello's doing, but like on a different, like on a 5th or 7th or something. It sounds like. And so that just adds some body to the whole thing. It's not a necessary element, except in the fact that it fills it out and it makes it sound more like a full orchestra, or whatever you want to say. It gives it body, fills it out. It's good stuff. You'll notice these are all pan center. I should note we're working right in this project with stereo mixdowns of each instrument. When I did this song, I did this several months ago, and if I remember right, I was setting up some new stuff around here and had like MIDI goofy stuff going on, and I was overwriting or losing tracks or something. So I went ahead and just like printed them all out. Normally, when I'm working on a project like this in Digital Performer, which mind you is just like any other DAW, if you used Pro Tools or Studio One or whatever you use, Logic, they all do the same thing. They're all the same. Everyone has their each of them have their quirks and everyone has their preferences, I'll say. But so this, usually I work with it, I never render tracks like this. I just work and I do a lot of them. I have 20, 30 orchestra tracks running off these things. It's no problem, even off my old iMac here. But in this case, they are actually printed to stereo mixes. They've already been panned and et cetera, where they were going to be before they were mixed down. So that's why all of the pans on this project are kind of set straight. You'll see 1 or 2 that I kind of messed with to overemphasize or change, once they got here. But for the most part, they're kind of sitting there. And so anyways, we have 2 strings track. Basically, we have a strings and a strings low V, low volume. That's what's going on there. And that's just basically because I didn't feel like automating faders and stuff. I just had this one section. I think it's just one little section at the end. This guy right here, this one little section at the end of here and here, that needs to be slightly lower in volume. So, very easy. Duplicate the track, split it, kill the audio you don't need, and take that one and just pull the volume down. Easy enough. I go back and forth. It's whether or not I use fader automation. Sometimes, obviously, sometimes, often I do all the time. But then sometimes it's just not, you don't need to. You can do a simple little something. But so anyways, then we have a trill track. So what a trill is when you take it's like usually violin, I think always probably, I don't know. what do I know? I'm just a guy. And they go between half tone, you know, 2 notes, da, 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 and they'll do it really, really fast, like, da, 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 and so we have some trill happening right here, and we can solo that trill, so you just hear just a trill. We give you a little piano and vocal too, though, so you know what's going on.
I love you, I adore you, I lay my life before you, I'll have you want me more and more. And finally.
And so the trill is similar to the cello and the strings that are kind of doing that tension building thing overall. The trill is just a bang you over the head tension maker. It just, you could hear it sitting up there just shaking the daylights out of everything, and you're like, ah, what's going on with that thing? Is it going to stop? And then it does. And so it's just another tool, another technique to mess with the dynamics of your song. It sounds weird, mess with the dynamics. Enhance the dynamics of your song, we'll say. And so that takes us like right into that pre-chorus, and when we're in that pre-chorus, marker 6, you'll hear the bass take on a playful little line, do 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 do, and it's kind of carrying most of what's going on before everything sweeps back in, and you've got strings going and then doing a big run up at the end. It's very dramatic. Let's hear it.
And finally, it seems my lonely days are through. I've been waiting for you.
And at the end of the song, there's even a bigger wind up. We'll hear
finally, it seems my lonely days are through. I've been waiting for you.
Little wind up. And so I'll let you, most orchestra type plugins are going to have a nice little trill or run. You know, they'll have, I think they call them articulations, and you know, like variations on kind of an instrument. And so with the violin run, we've got this thing that sounds like this. And then I do one higher at the very end. Easy enough. And in the mix, you know, they just kind of, you know, add this big wind up and solution kind of thing at the end, you know. Ta-da! You know, yip-de-doo. And so that's more or less the arrangement. You know, it's not a very big, complicated arrangement. I've certainly done much larger arrangements in the past. And so I did think it was a lot of fun, and simple is always better. Not always, often better in things that we do creatively. And this one rings true. I also usually do look at some other videos on the channel. I'll put a link to some crazy vocal hookups right now. And you peep in there and you'll see I've got songs, man, that are just filled up with vocals and a cappella sections with like 12 vocals and stuff, just ridiculous on the vocals. And this one, as you see, is one vocal kind of all the way through, except for one part at the very end which has 3 harmonies. Let's have a look and see what they are doing. That's what they're doing. So I've been waiting for you. It's simply an accent. It doesn't exist in the real song. It's just part of my arrangement. I wrote it in there. And it ends up really being kind of subtle if we listen to it in the whole mix. I think it's subtle. pretty subtle, just a little taste thing. So, but that takes us to the vocals. And so obviously there's not a lot going on with the vocals here. In this song, we have one vocal track for the majority of everything. So processing that vocal, we're running this through a Slate Virtual Mix Rack and the virtual console system, etc. Whatever plugins you might have, even the ones that are built into your DAW will probably be, just serve the same function as these. They won't be just as good. These are really good plugins. But if you have the Wave Suite or any of the other like UAs, or dude, all these plugins are so good anymore. But you got a gate, a virtual mic, a preamp, the console, EQ, compressor, and trimmer. And that's just like a trim at the end. So let's talk about all these guys. See what I'm doing. The lead vocal really doesn't. It's pretty quiet in here. It doesn't really need much of a gate, but there's one on there for whatever reason. Let's see why. Let's have a look at this vocal.
You thrill me, you delight me, you please me, you excite me, you're I've been in love before. I've been in love before. I thought I would know. I've been in love before. I thought.
So there's a tiny little bit of. It's probably the air in the back of the control room, which is pretty close to the mic if you're in here being lazy and doing your vocal in the control room like I often do. And so that gate, cures that pretty readily and easily. I just took the lead vocal preset. It doesn't look like I adjusted much of anything to that at all. It's very, very capable gate plug-in module thing. It's fantastic. Next, the vocal mic. We have the FG269. I land on this one a lot. It works pretty good with my voice. I'll bounce through, let you hear a couple of them. The 47 is going to be a bit more kind of MIDI and cool. Like I use that on a lot of rock stuff, it seems like. The 800 and the 800M. The M is the darker version of the 800 by Slate. The M by Slate, the 800 by Sony. I usually, if I'm going to use an 800 model, it usually ends up being the M version. The 251's really nice too. 6712 and M7 are, I like those more for background vocals, that types of things, or even some instruments with those mics. But anyways, onto the nup. So let's change.
You thrill me, you delight me, you please me, you excite me, you're something I'd been pleading for. I love you, I adore you, I lay my life before you, I'll have you want me more and more. And finally, it seems my lonely days are through. I've been waiting for you. I've been in love before. I thought I would know more. Managed to hit the sea.
So I land on the 269 almost every time on this song when I go through there. I like what it's doing to the mid-range character of my voice. It's like it adds something cool right up in there. So that's that. That's the mic. Next in line, is the Hollywood pre. I love this guy. You can run it as a preamp or a console plugin. Where I'm already doing console stuff over here with the virtual console, and so that guy I'm just using as a preamp, and I like that one. It adds really some beefy goodness. Like everything you put it to, man, seems to make it like bigger, like a little thicker. I dig it. I'll let you hear it with and without. We'll go ahead and turn all this stuff off, and I'll start popping them on so you can see what a happening. What a happening.
You thrill me, you delight me, you please me, you excite me. You're something I'd been pleading for. I love you, I adore you, I lay my life before you, I'll have you.
Yes, yes, I should have left that console plug-in on too, but very nice. I really dig that guy. So let's drop the EQ section on here, and we'll see too.
I've been in love beep.
And in case you're thinking, man, that already sounds pretty good. It does sound pretty good. The VMS mic is a really good mic. I've got another video up here that shows you how to take like 4 different cheap mics, inexpensive mics, and make them sound almost as good as that thing. Link is right here. Peep it. So adding the EQ section on, here we go.
I thought I would no more manage to hit the ceiling still. Strange as it seems to me, you brought it back to me.
So you can hear that just like opens up the entire top end really. What we're doing is on with the EQ. This is the SSL EQ, which is like a very target hitter EQ. I really like it. At 12, we're pulling back a little, 2.2. We're not doing really anything down here, but at 3, there's a tiny 0.5 boost. Way over here, 279, we're pulling down a little, 1.5, and we're also pulling down a little at 194, a lot, 8, with our bottom shelf happening at 91. Up here, the next thing is a lift module. This guy's really cool. I love this thing. It does a great just lift on the whole high end of your spectrum. And so that's where our high end boost of 2.7, that's where you're hearing that come in when we flip those on. It's fantastic. So, and then a little bit of compression, 8 to 1. It's a modern preset coming off this FG116, the blue comp.
You thrill me, you delight
that rounds us out.
You please me, you excite me. You're something
the other tracks are processed similarly.
I love you, I adore you. I've been waiting for you.
And so that's our discussion on ABBA's I've Been Waiting For You, as covered by me. So I hope you enjoyed that. I can't think of anything else that we would need to talk about inside of that discussion. So hopefully that was a little bit useful for somebody. And if it was, hit that subscribe button. Help me out, man. Help me grow my income just a tiny little bit. Because it's kind of silly, right? Anyways, let's do that again, huh? This is the wrap up. Take 2. Okay, so that's ABBA's I've Been Waiting For You, as covered by me. And I think we covered just about everything, guys. So if you have any questions or whatever, let me know in the comments. Leave a comment. Help this whole algorithm thing out, man. Get me some bump up in the YouTube world, because this guy's trying to add like $10 more a week to his revenue stream, right? Aren't we all? Sweet. So hit the subscribe thing. Check out something else, and you might find it useful too. And if you don't, sorry. If you do, awesome. I will check you guys out later in the next film. This is retarded, dude. What am I doing now? I'm saying retarded. Oh, man. So it's going to be at the 2-minute mark. Will be the proper wrap-up tape. And so that is ABBA's I've Been Waiting For You, as covered by me. I think we covered pretty much everything there is to cover. So if you have any questions or comments, if I missed something, let me know in the thingies down there. Hit the subscribe button over there, maybe help a guy out, and you might find some fun and useful stuff in there. Who knows? Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. See ya.